Thank you. Come again? Badesh went, waving goodbye to maybe the 100th customer of the day. He listened to the bell that rung when they left, annoyed but keeping him alert for the last hour of his shift. He now stared at the empty rows of his convenience store, a common sight for him, but one he dreaded. Another half-hour passed before the bell would ring, alerting him that someone had entered the store. He lifted his eyelids up, flashing them a few times to fully awake himself before looking for the new customer. He didn't see anyone at his initial look around, even the parking lot outside empty of any cars. Had he imagined the ringing of the bell? I am not going that insane, he relayed to himself. Hello, he mouthed out loud to the store, hoping a response would come in. From the back, he could hear something move, maybe a bag of chips fall down or a drink be set on a counter. But without warning, he saw someone pop their head up, almost like a prairie dog searching for a screeching hawk before ducking again. But Badesh knew something was off. The person was a woman who looked younger, her skin glowing with blonde bangs covering her forehead, like how a child would wear them. He knew the person in his store couldn't be over the age of 15, and as the young girl rounded the row, Badesh could get a full look of her. Her stature was minimized, with no hairs on top of her petite head above the height of 5'3". Her arms, legs, and general body was skinny, much like a child. Do you have a parent with you, kid? Badesh now called across the store to her, now noticing the small patches and holes mixed onto her already worn and dirty clothes. He now even had a worse feeling about this kid's life, his sorrow sinking into his stomach, the silence that she had hurting. You let me know if you need anything, okay? He called out again without a response from the girl. Then he heard a low buzzing, rising his head above and to the left, the red small dot on the security camera which signaled it was filming live throbbing on and off every few seconds. What's up with that? He asked himself, approaching and now inspecting the camera for any malfunction. The ring of the bell now came again from the entrance, then again and again. Badesh peered back, 5 people now staring at him, all wearing different animal masks, completely covering any signs of identification. They stood in a group with one wearing a tiger mask stepped out in front of the group, stomping its foot signaling to the 4 behind to start looting the store. The tiger masked being then approached Badesh, taking the money from the register laying on the counter, stuffing the couple hundreds worth of bills into its pant pockets. The masked tiger now kept eye contact with Badesh. Badesh looked beyond the masked user, looking as items were ripped from the shelves and stuffed into the thief's jacket and pants pockets. Within 3 minutes, they seemed done, all of the fresh, heated food now taken, and drinks and car snacks being brought outside. His focus then went on the masked tiger again, the figure now jumping the counter and striking Badesh into his rib with its fist. Badesh went back, feeling the air be knocked out of him as he landed on the ground heaving. Badesh then passed out for a moment, himself awaking to his store being empty of any masked criminals. Now the little girl at the counter opening a water bottle in her hand and placing it on the counter. Badesh stared at her, her facial expression unfazed from the robbery and assault that had just happened. Badesh closed his eyes again, wincing at the painful feeling in his mid-region, now opening his eyes again to see the little girl gone. So how are you feeling, Mr. Rashinka? Good, officer. I'm not feeling much pain unless I touch where the attacker struck, and you can call me Badesh, mister. You can call me Dip. Want to thank you again for allowing us to ask about this incident. Just doing our part to make sure that this case gets solved. Badesh nodded, now showing us around the store, the shelves still empty from when the looters stole everything. After a minute, we returned to the front of the store counter, Badesh going over the events that day. I was waiting here, alone with a girl. Couldn't be over 15, but then a group of 5 individuals came in with their faces covered. I was checking on the security camera at this time, else I would have locked the cash box. But they stole that and around $400 worth of food. Does your security camera often have issues? Dip asked Badesh, who had just finished. I have never had issues with it until last night, but it's also an older machine. Eventually, you know it's going to give out. Badesh replied, prompting Dip, so do you have any footage from that night at all? A moment later, Badesh was taking the tape out of the camera and went into a back room. Once there, he plugged the tape into the computer on the desk, a file with the day of the looting appearing. Badesh clicked on it. The film started rolling as he fast-forwarded to the time of the attack. There we saw the girl walk into the store, her youth and her clothes being concerning factors for me and Dip. We continued to watch, seeing the girl walk straight to the back and Badesh go to the counter calling out to her. The Badesh started to stare at the camera and the image started to fade and static began to take over the screen. Seems like someone got into the system, Dip said, then talking to me. I am going to put out a report for missing children in the area. We may have one here who was a witness. Then pulling out his phone and leaving the room. I walked inside my own room, hearing the small and shallow echo of Will upstairs. I made my way up to him, preparing myself to tell him I would be late getting home tonight. I walked inside, finding Will in a meditation pose on the bed, both eyes closed and staring at the wall. I am trying my best, he said to someone. Try harder. I can't be stuck here forever. A voice around went, surrounding the entirety of my head. Who is that? I asked, startling Will, who opened his eyes. Will, who was that? I interrogated him. Alos, he's trapped in the smoke world. He thinks I can get him free, get him back to us. Will explained. He is alive. Where is he staying? I continued saying to him. He lives in one of the cliffs, but I think he is trying to find a group who would know more about me achieving my potential. Will came back. Achieving your potential? I went. Yeah, I don't know exactly what that means, except for Alos to be back with us in this world once I am successful. Will explained. I didn't know what to think of it. An idea that whatever Will was talking to was a being from an alternate dimension, or something pretending to be stuck crossed my mind. Also the fact that Will has more potential in something. How would Will even get Alos back? I shook my head, reminding myself I told Dip I would meet him at 5:20 at the station, with the time just hitting 5. I will be gone for the night. Try not to do anything too crazy while I'm gone. I said to Will, who nodded as I left the room. The cop drove down the street, the time now passing 8 p.m., and the first stars started to come out for the night ahead. He had missed these nighttime patrols, watching as the town he resided in shut down for the night and everyone was going home. But for this night, it wasn't everyone, as he could see people off in the distance of a local park that was bound to close past 7:30 due to a city ordinance. He pulled into the parking lot for the park, seeing a group of kids about 250 yards away. There, he could make an estimate that they were around the age of 14 all the way to 16, and noticed all of them wore baggy and dirty clothing, something that could be considered common after a long day of play. He stepped out of his vehicle, some of the kids' heads turning immediately to watch him approach. The laughter and chatter from their way stopped as more and more of the kids turned their heads, watching the officer march another 10 yards toward them. Then one started to run off, followed by another, then another, until all 8 of the kids started to run away from the officer. The officer then picked up his speed, but failing to catch up with any of them, reaching the spot where they sat at after 40 seconds. He looked down at the ground, noticing wrappers of discarded food laying on the ground, some dollar bills also laying, then being swept by the wind and shoved around. You kids left your change. The officer yelled out, hoping his words would make any of them return. He waited for 10 minutes, his hope fading like the sunlight on the planet. My phone started to vibrate in my pocket, and I pulled it out, expecting the caller to be Will, but instead a number I had never recognized before. I answered it, hello, hearing a chilling man's voice on the other line. Where are the kids? My heart sank, now panicked and nervous for who it was, replying, What kids? hoping the caller would give me more information. "The kids you are looking for, where are they?" The man continued on the other line, seeming more and more determined to get an answer. Dip then looked over at me asking, "Is everything okay?" I shook my head no, and he pulled the phone from my ear, demanding to the caller on the line, "Who is this?" Dip heard the same question I got, with Dip's response being, "I need a name from you before I tell you where the kids are at." The voice on the other side of the line was silent, and a second later the line was dead, and Dip handed me the phone back. "Call it a prank call, Nick, and forget about it," Dip said, now going back and being focused at the task on hand. "So how the night's going, Daryl?" Officer Grant asked the cashier of the gas station. "It's another slow night, can't say I don't mind it though." The cashier went then adding, "We have more of those smoked briskets out in the back. Feel free to help yourself." The officer then went to the back of the store, on the hunt for the meat Daryl had talked about. 3 rings of a bell then rang through the store. Daryl intrigued at the half-dozen children in front of him, dressed with masks of commonly known animals. He looked at them, the plastic faces of a lion, zebra, elephant, tiger, panda, and crocodile amusing him. "Halloween is not tonight, is it?" he said jokingly to them. One of them now stomped their foot, and the 4 kids ran through the aisles of the store grabbing food. The one who stomped now approached Daryl, a statue of confidence in the child as he approached before hearing on the kids yell, "Let me go." Daryl looked over to the now pleading child, who Officer Grant had grabbed. The other children then ran out of the gas station, Grant firmly holding the child and ripping the mask off, exposing the boy underneath. The confidence now disappeared from the being who had once approached Daryl, now standing in place in front of him, appearing as a scared kid not knowing what to do, while watching Grant continue to hold the stealing child hostage, rushing and following the others out of the gas station. The boy in Grant's arms continued to squirm, the bag he had taken off the shelf being crunched in his hand, and him yelling, "Let me go," and "Help," repeatedly, a desperate attempt to free himself. Within 5 minutes, another officer was at the scene. The boy sitting in the back of a police car, the officers discussing just outside the car on what to do with him. 20 minutes passed, and the boy realized they had made their decision, sending him to the local jail where he would presumably spend the night. There, Grant now looked at the boy behind the jail cell, a little shiver and frost in his breath leading him to offer the boy a blanket from which he accepted. Still not a word was said from the boy, the officers not knowing what to think of the case. In the morning, me and Dip both sat in a room with that boy, still wrapped in the blanket he received the night before. "Why did you steal at those gas stations?" asked Dip to the child, now appearing more and more scared as the interrogation went on. "We were hungry," the boy replied quietly. "Who's we?" questioned Dip. "You know who he is, the people I was with," the boy replied. "And where can I find them?" Dip now asked, an annoyed look from the boy, knowing Dip was asking him to betray his friends. "I can get you something good to eat. You have a favorite restaurant here. I can get you a warm breakfast." Dip offered to him, which he reluctantly shook his head. "No." "Think about it," Dip said, before standing up and leaving the room, myself following him. 20 minutes passed until Dip believed he gave the kid enough time to think, walking in the room and asking him again, "Where are your friends at?" The kid didn't budge, now seeming more quiet than ever. Dip then gave him a hypothetical, "So you are homeless currently, and so are your friends. What if I make a deal that instead of juvie, you would all get adopted? Have homes to live in, you wouldn't have to steal again." This intrigued the boy, who replied, "But no one would want to adopt me. I am a thief." Dip shook his head. "As of now, yes, but you can change. You can redeem yourself, and when people know that they will want you in their life." The boy pondered the question, giving Dip a smile before giving in to his request. "They should just be around here." The officer said, The other replying, "This place has been abandoned for over 5 years, ever since it caught fire, right?" "Right," the first officer said. "But the boys said they camp in the basement. Must have been okay after the fire." They then started to walk in the house, their feet digging into some of the ash still laying on the ground after so many years. They started to move downstairs, hearing the footsteps of scattering children. They now reached the basement flooring, grabbing 2 of the kids but watching 7 others run out the back window into an open field. They continued to watch them, the children they held squirming like fish out of water to free themselves, the officers seeing other officers come out with their squad's car, circling and grabbing all of the kids into their custody as the children yelled, "Stop!" seeing their friends be taken. The 2 officers from the house then pushed their kids out of the house, with one officer making a comment. They both looked the same. Noticing the matching facial structure, gray eye color, and shorter brown hair of 2 children caught in the house. Within the hour, all 9 sat in the same cell together. The collections team dug through what they could find at the house. The animal face masks they wore, $250 in cash, and scraps of half-eaten food that would have been split among them. Dip now looked in the cell, seeing the one that they had originally taken in custody in the corner of the room, all the other children keeping their distance, knowing he must have snitched on them. He then looked at all of the children's faces, nearly identical, but with age gaps of at least 3 years consolidating between them. "Your friend made a good choice. Once we are done with all of you, you all will be sent to a new permanent home. Meaning you don't have to steal anymore from people. That's progress. That's better than the life you had." Dip said to them, hoping to help the situation. He was met with silence from the kids, and a dreadful feeling came over him. Dip then got distracted, his phone vibrating in his pocket. "I heard you found the children," a voice said, the same one which had called me a day earlier. "You need to give me your name. This is a police officer order." Dip demanded to the person on the line. "Tell me that you have the children and I will consider." The voice continued, almost taunting Dip. "You tell me who you are or I will trace this number and bring you in myself." Dip replied, "Be a pain. I can go verify my question myself." The man said on the other side of the line, then ending the call. One of the girls then came to the bars in front of Dip, getting his attention, for which he turned around. "Bad man," she said to Dip, then turning around and joining the group. "Do you know who he is?" Dip asked, pleading with the girl, being met with only silence and blank stares from the other children. The man waited for dusk to try to break in, hoping that the end of the shift would give an advantage against the already tired guards. "If only that man would give me the information I needed," the man said, referring to Dip. Now, with the small hand of the clock passing 9, he walked up besides the jail, going to a side door on the prison wall. He stuck a straightened-out paperclip and shoved it into the hole, twisting and pushing it in and out of the hole, before the lock eventually gave, letting him step inside the jail. He snuck around, now in an office or supply closet in the back. He pushed a door open, leading to the main hallway. He walked confidently down, but his heart dropped hearing a siren going on inside the jail walls. His presence must have set something off. The man retreated back into the supply closet, pulling the gun from his waist and waiting for anyone to try to find him. The kids could hear the sirens from the front office going off. A couple gunshots and yelling followed a minute later. Deep down, all of them knew their lives were in danger. The man they had originally tried to run from, now at the place they were trapped at. This thought split the group, with half being in fear, the other half knowing they had to get the group out of there. One of the boys then went to the bars, pulling at them, hoping to find the strength to increase the size of the small gap, at least enough to let some of the younger kids escape. His attempt was a failure as 2 others in the back rammed their sides into a wall, hoping to break it. Then the girl stood in the middle of the room, the one that had remained maskless when she ruined the tape of the gas station security cameras. Her brown eyes locked into the wall, following the brick lines and imagining them being split apart. The others stood back from the wall, seeing it be slowly pushed outward. The girl now lifted her hand, focusing on the wall with her eyes closed, creating a crack 2 feet wide, enough to let the kids pass through. All of the kids then ran off the property lines of the jail, retreating to the nearby wood line and disappearing into the night. One of the officers then entered the once full cell, finding nothing of their existence beside the broken cement and dust the girl had caused. The local police officers spent the next 7 days looking for children in the area, with no sight of them ever being found. The man who had originally broken into the jail was shot dead while hiding behind a chair. The gun he had in his possession stolen from an armory in California 9 months ago. Along with this, the man's identity remained a mystery, with no trace of fingerprint or blood sequence showing in any government database. To add to the mystery, the blood from one of the children booked also didn't match with any government identification method, and none of the booked children fingerprints matched. It's as if they never existed, Dip told me as I read the forensic report to myself. I nodded to him, reading more information on where the samples were tested and by who, both credible sources. You want to see something interesting? I turned to Dip, sliding 2 pictures of DNA strands to me. The one on the left is the man that broke in. The other is the original child that officer took in, the one that gave us the other children. Their DNA is almost identical, comparable up to 93%. I asked Dip, which means what? Meaning that these kids weren't given this DNA naturally. It had to have been modified, the first step in human gene modification.